Consistently winning fights against good players is very hard, but to help you get better at fighting these good players, let's take a look at 10 fights where a good player beats a pro player and break them down so we can beat good and even pro players as well. Starting with our first fight, Fatch starts off this fight with a huge damage spray onto Nox Nada and then starts to apply a ton of pressure to Nox. Nox then makes the right play to make as much space as he can to try and use his heals. While using his heals, Fatch gets onto his wall and Nox times a perfect shot right as Fatch breaks his wall. Even though he connected this shot, Nox was ready if he missed it, as he immediately edited his cone to protect himself before getting out of his box. This shot gave Nox some time to use a big pot where he then starts to pressure Fatch. Nox sets himself up on the diagonal to the left of Fatch. This allows him to take trade shots with Fatch where he has a massive angle advantage. This angle advantage in turn allows Nox to get way up in HP in this fight, which allows him to jump in with his flapjack rifle to finish off the kill. Moving on to our next fight, Thomas HG pushes Volko. He sets up the Martaz peak and jumps up to go for a shot, but his opponent Volko has a great counter to this play. Volko sits behind a window peak, and as soon as Thomas jumps up, he shoots the floor and replaces it as his own. This traps Thomas on his floor, giving Volko an easy opportunity to get a big shot onto Thomas before resetting the wall to block a potential counter shot from Thomas. Once he sees this shot isn't coming, he edits and stops Thomas from leaving his box with some great piece control. From here, Volko has a huge HP advantage and wins the aim duel. Going on to fight 3, Snazy has a big HP advantage on his opponent and starts to pressure his enemy. He grabs his opponent's wall, which would normally result in his enemy's instant death, but Snazy edits a middle window, which allows his opponent to have a right shoulder peek onto Snazy's window. His opponent uses this small mistake to hit a huge shot, where he then turns up the pressure and jumps into Snazy's box, resulting in Snazy's death. Snazy should have just waited until his opponent moved further to the left so that he could set up a right shoulder peek, but he didn't, and this resulted in his death. Moving on to fight number 4, Yuumi is boxed up and has a massive health advantage on his opponent, Nate, and Nate has no materials. This is a fight that Yuumi should win 100% of the time. Nate gets onto Yuumi's wall and they trade each other when Yuumi makes a top row edit. Yuumi then makes this peanut butter edit, which can be good to get a quick tag on your opponent's feet, but it stops being good when you keep your wall edited like that. He then swings into the open space, giving himself no peek advantage, which allows Nate to take a 50-50 and finish off the kill. Yuumi should have resetted the wall and tried to kill Nate with either a window or a proper peanut butter peek at this point in the fight. Going over to some console players, Defiable is fighting our pro player Cardi. Defiable starts this fight off with a 91 tag with his mammoth pistol. He then turns the pressure onto Cardi by jumping into his box with the drum shotgun by timing his shot as he jumps into the wall. He gets a shot onto Cardi and then starts to track him down with his flapjack AR. Defiable decides to go over the top here as it allows him to only break through one floor instead of 2 ramps. Defiable continues to pressure Cardi while he's on the back foot and picks up the kill with his AR. Going on to fight number 6, Redux is about to get something from a hollow chest when he gets heavy shotgun. Redux makes the correct play by making a ton of space, but his opponent does an even better job of tracking Redux perfectly through his builds. By tracking him, he is able to jump into Redux's box with his shotgun and gets an AR shots onto Redux. He then places a wall behind Redux to stop him from leaving the box, and with over a 100 HP advantage, DA Gallo is very happy to 50-50 at this point in the fight, which he does, allowing him to win it. Moving on to the next fight, Pablo Wingo is trying to finish off a fight against his opponent Zwix, and he starts to jump into his builds, but Zwix does a good job of making a ton of space to work from, where he is then able to edit back onto Pablo, who is now in his builds. This overcommitment from Pablo resulted in him getting hit hard, and then when he goes to box up, Zwix makes the very aware play to use the grind rails to break out Pablo's builds, which allows him to finish off the kill. Next up, we have Cade, who is fighting Serenity at the capture point flag in Lonely Left. He's doing a good job of spraying Serenity's ramp, who is stuck in his full box. Cade makes the mistake of making his spray patterns with his AR too predictable, and Serenity is able to use this predictability to his advantage by editing his ramp and getting a big shot while Cade is spraying his AR. From here, he uses half of his ramp to ramp face into Cade's box. Cade should have been slower with how he pressures Serenity, as his consistent sprays made it easy for Serenity to jump in on him and get the kill. Moving back over to NA, Poyo starts to pressure the box where Visify is collecting his combat cash. Visify capitalizes on Poyo's mistake here, as Poyo ends up within one tile of Visify's builds with no exit control. This allows Visify to full box Poyo, where he can then take safe right shoulder peeks and eliminate Poyo. Jumping back over to EU, Cynet starts to push Khan, who is getting his cash. Cynet gets onto Khan's wall, but doesn't establish any piece control or block Khan from leaving his box in any ways. This mistake allows Khan to edit out the top of the box and box Cynet from the top down. From here, Cynet is forced into all of Khan's edits, where Khan is able to take safe edits to finish off Cynet. These were 10 fights that regular players took and won against pro players, and hopefully you learned something from these fights that you can use to win against very good players. But if you enjoy this video on fighting, then I can almost guarantee you'll love the video on screen as well. Peace.